Three, two, one.
Hello, you're tuned into WBPULP St. Petersburg 96.3 on your FM dial. Welcome to the Simone Durant Show, where we cover all things hair, health, beauty, and community.
Wow!
Yep, you heard it. This isn't just a show, it's a movement. So turn up the volume and join the conversation. It's time to educate, enlighten, and empower together. Let's dive in. I want to thank God. Always starting off with the attitude of gratitude, thanking God for being clothed and in our right mind. Like when I think about the people of old that you would hear saying that as a child, like you don't really appreciate it until you get a little bit older, you know, and you start living a little bit. But yeah, being clothed and in your right mind. God is the author and the finisher of my life, so all praises go to the Most High. Thank you to the African People's Education and Defense Fund, led by Chairman Amali Yeshitela. Thank you to Black Power Radio's leadership, President Owners Janae Yeshitela, Uncle DJ Eddie, Florida's best blind DJ, and all the people that we don't see that's constantly supporting the initiatives of educating, enlightening, and empowering the community. The freedom of speech is something that has been trying to be taken into possession and to be handicapped and handcuffed, but this platform is one of our community's most prized possessions, because we can get on the air and talk about things that we are passionate about, the things that we want to see change about. We can educate our community and really uplift our community. So today is absolutely no different. We're going to give thanks also to my wonderful fiance Vaughn, who I know is listening. He always supporting me. Thank you to my children, my clients, my mentors, Tony Love, my industry mentor. Thank you to the Black Power family. Thank you to the Simone Durant Show family. Thank you to all of y'all for constantly being a beacon of light in our community and being motivation to keep us doing what we do. Today we have a very special guest. He is not new to the Black Power family, but he is here once again today. Friday we had a community meeting in regards to getting in front of the teen takeovers, and now Pastor Lewis Murphy of Kingdom Changers
Stevens.
Sorry, Lord, not Murphy. Pastor Lewis Stevens Jr. I'm sorry. Kingdom Changers Church, community advocate and a childhood friend. He has been deep and entrenched in the lives of the young people, trying to be a beacon of hope and direction, and he continues to do it today. One of the very few people that I know personally, his story of growing up in this community and then giving back to the community. So I'm so happy to have him a part of this conversation once again. And we're going to give you guys a little update about Friday and, you know, what happened, because it's so important that as many people have as much information as possible. We understand that life happens, you know, we understand that there are last minute initiatives that are in place. And so as a part of, you know, being a part of change, like I definitely wanted to make sure that as many people who have the opportunity to listen to this playback, to watch the YouTube video, to listen to the radio show at home, we have an opportunity to share this information with you. So Friday, we got into the building. I believe, although we were somewhat few in numbers, the right people were in the room, right? And I have a conversation about this all the time, that sometimes even if it's just one, right, that one person can set a domino effect and change the trajectory of the entire conversation. So it doesn't always have to be a lot. We had about, roughly 60 people show up, powerful, giving great feedback. And the first thing I want to do is start off with the pastoral conversation that started at 6 o'clock. Many of us were not in the room, but I definitely want you to give a little bit of insight into what the leaders of this community were discussing and talking about prior to the rest of us coming.
Well, let me first start off saying thank you again for having me. I'm definitely a childhood friend. We go way back. And so I would just want to give honor for all of the work and your voice inside of the community, and the work that you're doing is so impactful into Black Power. What an amazing opportunity we have, because we need to be able to create our own media and drive and all of those things. So I just wanted to give kudos to you.
Thank you.
It was a powerful movement. I think one of the biggest things we deal with here in St. Pete is we have over 200 churches in the south side of St. Petersburg alone. We have a real problem of us coming together. So a lot of us that sat in that room for a moment, we really had to embrace it for a moment, because we was like, man, this has never happened. And especially when you got youth pastors and youth leaders from all across St. Pete sitting in one room. And the question was, how do we make an impact on the Christian lives of young people? How do we get young people back into the church? How do we get young people saved again? How do we go from just having Fourth Sunday, which is one Sunday out of the month? How do you grow your youth ministry? And then for us to come together as a collaboration to say, hey, this is what we're going to do to be able to get the young people saved, for one, let them know who Christ is, for two, and then be able to come together as a whole to say, what can we do for us to all come on one accord? And so it was an amazing meeting.
And what were some of the biggest takeaways, like things that you guys say, all right, let's continue this conversation? What were some of those things that you guys engage with in dialogue that can reassure us that the leaders of the community are really on one accord? What were some of those things that you guys touched on?
I think one of the major things that we came was we was going to build a youth pastor coalition together, and that was we was going to meet at least once a month, where we all meet together and we share ideas and we share what we have going on. We share what's taking place inside of their church. How can we all come together as a whole, even though you may have a church over here, a church over there? Well, how do we come together as a whole and pull the young people? So I think that was one of the biggest takeaways that we have, is we're building a youth pastor coalition here in St. Pete.
And so outside of the church, we understand that there are a lot of kids that, practice, that are, I guess, astray. That practice different denominations, and so community involvement is also very, very important. What were some of the conversations about the things that will happen outside of the walls of the church and outside of the Christian denomination?
I know one of the things was, how do we get involved with youth sports, coming out, getting ready to go speak to the young people. I know another conversation was, how do we put on our own church block party where all the youth from different churches can come and be a part. And then we also talked about setting up where we're going to do youth prayer circles throughout the city. We was going to come together as a whole to do that. So it was a lot that we put all in a place together. But the number one thing is right now that we got to work on is the churches coming together, youth pastors, youth leaders, all coming together and really trying to put a foundation and a plan that we'll be able to use to be able to make an impact in these young people's lives.
Absolutely, and thank you for that. Moving forward, the community was invited into the conversation around 7 p.m. As we see, the news was there. You were able to get a lot of people in the room. We were able to see some people who were running for different offices within the city show up in their support. And who were some of those people that were in the room to be a part of that conversation?
Yeah, you had Charlie Chris. He's running for mayor right now in our city. You had Trevor Mallory. He's running for City Council District 6. You had Michelle Rayner. She's running for Rusan seat, which he just retired. You had our moderator that was there. Darling, she is running for Michelle Rayner's seat.
In District 62.
In District
right.
62. And then you had a judge that was there, a good brother. I'm going to get behind him fully. He's running for judge. And then you had our city councilman, our chairman, city council for the city of St. Petersburg, Gertis. He was in the building. So we had some heavy hitters inside of the building.
And do you think that them being there definitely impacted the rest of the room?
Yeah.
Because the conversation around city officials and people within the community not really hearing, starting from the top and coming down to meet us where we are, is a really important concern within the community. And so I agree in the fact that we had some people in the room that showed their human side, right?
Yeah.
Their human. Yeah. And a lot of times with politicians and different people, we see them but we don't feel like they're reachable.
Yeah.
I think that when the conversation that started off was about recognizing some of the challenges that were being faced from the community perspective. I know that I was one of the first people to get up and and start the conversation. And we'll just kind of like trickle through a little bit. One of the primary things that I felt like the conversation needed to be had was being able to have one-on-one communication with young youth who are in the school system, who are seeing other parents represented and showing up on a day-to-day basis and don't really understand why their parents are not or cannot be as active. One of the things that I mentioned was just being one of those parents that are in the room that have a level 2 background check. That's not necessarily a capability of parents who have felonies or major misdemeanors or things that won't allow them. And so having that conversation with their children about, the process of being able to get into schools based on the protection and the rules and regulations that they're putting into place after major school shootings. Also explaining to them, that they have to work, they have to provide. And so making sure that it doesn't become a mentally hostile environment when kids are not really understanding why their parents can't be as active as other parents. And then also having more people who can be active. And I was followed up by someone who's in the school system, talked about the importance of mentorship and how that process works.
Janine Wyman.
Right, Janine Wyman. How that process works, and that we need more people who have the level 2 capability to come and start doing these mentorship programs that are in the schools. One being the Lunch Pal program. You can become a mentor. You can be a support for the Big Brothers Club, for 500 Role Model. There's a lot of different things that are happening inside the school during the school day and in after school activities, and they're looking for the support of the community. You don't have to have a child that goes there. You can choose any school that you feel like has a disparity and needs the assistance. The principal of Melrose High School was also in the room and was very transparent about who shows up, and it's not people that look like them. So having a conversation around, hey, the churches that show up, the people that show up are not black, right? And so how do we truly get to the ones that have the strongest and the deepest need? And I have been in the room, and I have been a part of the conversation in the support of Melrose because my son went there for a year, and to see that there is a very big need because they bring their life to the school. right? They bring the fact that they are, possibly raising their kids, their siblings, feeding themselves, having to adapt to the adult culture as early as elementary school. So what is one thing that you took from that conversation?
Well, I think that as a whole was huge, right? Is knowing that, again, there's 200 churches on the south side of St. Pete alone. And to know that that school sits right in the heart of Southside St. Pete, and to know that no churches are involved, that's huge. And so that we actually put that a part of the plan as we're getting ready to outroll the plan that's going to be in place. I wish I would have brought it today, but part of that plan is to get 50 volunteers to go into side of Melrose Elementary, and that'll be the first school that we'll make an impact on. So just to have Brandy there, that's doing an amazing job with our students day in and day out. To have her there and to give us that insight, and to have Deneen that has did a lot of work for the Pinellas County Schools. Just to hear that, it just let us know, man, we got to get to work. Because at the end of the day, the state of Florida keeps up with how many prisons they're going to build by how many kids don't pass the third grade test.
Correct.
So you're saying already at third grade, I'm counting these kids out. And so we have to count them in. Because if we don't count them in, they automatically going to count them out. And so we got to do a better job of volunteering at the schools.
Another part of the conversation that was spoken to by a grandmother who was very close in the raising of her grandchildren was changing the narrative, getting in front of the narrative when things like this happen. And so, as we know, a lot of the children that were at these teen takeovers were not there trying to be disruptive. They were trying to find a space to just hang out, be seen, have a community. And it wasn't done effectively, but the narrative was that all of them represented the same intent, right? And so, she talked about getting in front of the narrative, changing the narrative, and being more positive on our platforms, using our platforms to share the things that are really positive, especially when these type of instances occur, so that when people go looking for information, that information is not the only information that they find.
Right. And I think we just got to do a better job of that, right? But the problem is, we don't know. I don't know what Brother Susie got over here. I don't know what Mount Zion is doing over here. I don't know. So that's one of the biggest things that I learned, is that we're not coming to the table enough. Because if we was coming to the table enough, we would know that. Because here's the thing is, I could go start a program tomorrow. I'm not going to have every single thing that a young person needs. But if you over here and you teaching youth how to be radio hosts, while I'm over here teaching youth how to cook, we need to be able to pull that together where we're giving them a roundabout services. And I don't think we do a great job at that. So I think what she had said was really major. And so that was another component that we added. We need to start having these meetings at least once a month, where we are coming at the round table, where we're getting to know each other, and we're being able to service how many of youth we need to service. Because, hey, I know Simone over here got this going on. Brother Durant got this going. You know what I'm saying? Where we're able to feed these young people as a whole. So,
absolutely. Another thing that raised concern was that of transportation. We know that the city has free bus passes for students, but you and your company did an awesome job of stepping in, getting these kids where they need to go. You have a private transportation business, but you took it upon yourself to offer that to the community for children to be transported during the summer to and from events while their parents are at work. The founder and owner of Bear's Company actually stepped up to the mic, right, and had the conversation, extending her services and trying to create a bigger network of those who have transportation vehicles right now. So how do you think the issue of transportation is affecting how these kids get to and from the services that are already available?
Well, it's huge, right? Because most parents that you run into are single mothers. Let's just be real. And you're asking a mother, for one, to either skip work or she on work 2 jobs all day long, and then she still got to come home and make sure that the family is together. So they'll tell you now, football coaches will tell you, in order to get them kids on the field, most of these coaches picking them up. You know, to get kids to church. Most youth pastors, if you want a good youth church, you picking them kids up. I can tell you now, when I was a youth pastor, still to this day, and I have about 12 kids, and I'm praying we'll get a ticket, but excuse me, to get kids anywhere these days, you gotta go get them. You gotta go get them because, and you can't blame the parent, because they doing all they could do to make sure that it's a roof over the head, make sure it's food on the table. So we got to do a better job of saying, hey, I get them. You know, and that's what they did it when I was growing up and I was in these youth programs. Man, that van will pull up right outside our house, blow the horn, and you see us running from different houses. But you cannot have a successful youth program here, whatever you're doing here in St. Pete, if you ain't going to get the kids. It won't work. So what she said was very impactful. I think now we just got to be a little bit smarter on how do we use these black car services that we have, like Bear's Transportation and those things. I know Cara has 3 vans also. That's been doing the work. You know, how can we work with them, you know, to make sure that our kids are getting there safely to these programs. So.
And there are a lot of churches within this area that have church buses.
Men great till they gotta be great. Don't text me, tell it straight to. Men great till they gotta be great. Don't text me, tell it straight to.
They're not being, they're not being used until Wednesday or Sunday, or they don't have an educational platform attached to their community. So I think that is a really important thing to bring to the table, and I'm glad that it was brought up. I have to just say that the energy in the room was so constructive and positive. She started off by setting the tone that we're not going to play the blame game. We're here to listen more than we speak, but we're also here to provide solutions, right now solutions, and futuristic solutions. Another part of that conversation came from someone who said that he was already doing the work. And that he was doing what he could. He didn't have the money to do it, but he had the heart to do it. And he was piling these young men up in the car, taking them to work with him, and that he still had to figure out how to pay them. He kind of tricked them into, doing something positive. Yeah. And I think that that's kind of where it starts. We talked around the conversation of not necessarily relying on grants and different things to accomplish the task, but really, he petitioned donations, he petitioned different things as he stood up, but you could really see that him and others, like I saw on Facebook where someone from Childs Park was directly trying to impact 2 young men in the construction sector, mentorships for the next month, paid a part-time wage, and just to get them exposed and to try and change the hearts. It does take statistically 30 days to actually instill a habit. So I think that was very, very impactful when he did that. But we petitioned to try and bring in the community to have more personal impacts like that. So what would you say to the people in the community who are from where we're from, who have done the work, who have overcome obstacles? What is your petition to them?
Keep going. Don't get weary in well-doing. I tell people all the time, they say, why don't you just do this full time? And I tell them, no matter what sector of youth that I work with, it can't take care of my family at the end of the day. My biggest thing is we no longer, and this is what I left out of the meeting with, we no longer can wait on the city. We no longer can wait on the county. We no longer can wait on the state level. If we're gonna see any change, Simone, we got to go and get our funds ourselves for our kids. There was no youth jobs for our kids this summer. That youth grant got cut off. I heard a lady just wrote me and she said one of the tutoring grants just got cut off. So there are a lot of work that needs to be done, but we're gonna have to go after the funding ourselves. And guess what? It's gonna take us as a whole. Another one of our components that we have is probably within this week you'll see a drive go off where we're asking over 200 people to give $20 because what we want to do is we want to be able to raise money to be able to have these kids go through a 2-week where they go and they work. We got Chill Will signed up. Ashley is signed up. We have a couple of more that own businesses, but we want to team them up. If that's your passion and if that's your drive, for 2 weeks we're going to pay you to go and learn everything that you're going to learn. You got to show up and you got to go. But again, these kids will get at least $250 at the end of it for the 2 weeks. And now those kids got $250 and they can help mama and daddy buy school clothes and all of those things. So I think one of the biggest things that I did come to learn is like, we no longer can wait for them. We got to go and we got to go get that money ourselves. And I can tell y'all, a lot of people think the city helped me, the state helped me. I'm gonna be honest with you, Simone, them people ain't never gave me a dime. I've went and I said, even for my summer camp, I got this thing called, ain't no kid getting left behind. Everybody going on this field trip. And I get on and I ask for money and I ask, and that's the hardest thing for me is to ask people for money, but when you understand the work that you're doing, you understand that it takes money. And so the work that we're trying to do, we're going to get out here and get it. So we're looking to raise like $10,000 probably in the next 3 weeks.
Men great till they gotta be great. Don't text me, tell it straight to
people who want to learn how to do this. On top of the things that are already available, like we know the greenhouse has been around since, Lord, for at least the last 20 years, maybe even more. But at least since I had my first child, I've known about the Greenhouse. The Pinellas County Urban League that has the Serious Business Academy for those who don't really understand business setup, understand business structure, marketing, advertising, and it's not specific to for-profit. It's also inviting nonprofits and other people into the conversation to understand the structure. That is a free service. And so the conversation around, I went through the Serious Business Academy twice, right? They offer it about every 6 months the last time I checked. And so getting connected with these things, as a parent, I'm going to be very transparent. I have to look for things as my children age. I grew up, like you say, having that connection of, Little League football, having the church as a reference point as well. And, my mom, she was predominantly raising us alone.
Yeah.
My dad was, going through things, jail, drugs, you name it.
Yeah.
And she used cheerleading practice as a time for her to do different things. She used choir rehearsal. She used Bible drill team. She used all these different things that we were a part of. The Brain Bowl, right? I Googled Brain Bowl, and I realized that the Midnight Achievers Society is still intact, right? It's still associated with St. Petersburg College. And I'm like, really? I had no idea. And so there is an abundance of things that exist. But again, the conversation is not around the kids who already have the opportunity, who parents are seeking, right? So one of the pastors, she came in and said when she came home from the military, she saw the disconnect in the community like it had never been before. And she talked about boots on the ground. One of the things that she brought up was canvassing, getting more people out to canvass and to just make their faces known around these kids, to soften the burden of, hey, I have to be on defense when I encounter adults, when I encounter the police, when I encounter anyone who's trying to do something for me or trying to instruct me in a certain type of way, because I don't know you. I don't have a relationship with you. And just like it is so important in business, it's also very, very important when it comes to establishing everyday relationships, especially with young people, right? And so she talked about that. It really hit home. We see a lot of different type of people who canvass the neighborhood, from spiritual evangelists to Verizon people, right? They're boots on the ground. They're knocking on these doors. They're at the parks. They're wandering around the grocery stores, and there's a real craft, and there's a real effectiveness by getting out there and doing the work. Putting your feet on the ground, going to Bartlett Park, going to Campbell's Park, going to Jordan Park, going to Play Lot 2, Play Lot 6. The play lots, we already know what they're about, but there are kids there. There are young adults there, and they're pooling around, and they don't know what to look for. They don't know what they don't know. So speak a little bit about the emphasis on boots on the ground and some of the things that you heard during that conversation.
Yeah, I think boots on the ground is very important. One thing I came to learn about St. Pete in this very unique way, getting the kids ain't the problem. I promise you, I can go on tomorrow and say, I don't know, I'm taking 50 boys to go fishing. I promise you I'm probably going to have 60 to sign up. Getting the kids is not the problem. The problem is getting the help. Because what happens is you get these people, and when they see something like a youth takeover, they get rambunctious and, I'm ready to make a change. And then when it's time to do the work, it's nowhere to, you know what I'm saying? So the important part about getting out and having boots on the ground is you got to make sure that your team, your organization is strong and ready to work. Because if you don't make sure of that first, you're going to get an influx of kids. Because little Larry got 13 cousins And I promise you, all of them gonna run out of Bethel Heights. You pull up the bus, they all coming, right? So that's my big thing right now, is making sure that before we say we gonna go, because then what happens is it's left up to the 5 of us.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And then what happens to the 5 of us, because the influx of kids, we get burnt out.
Burnt out. Burnt out.
You get what I'm saying? I did 7 long years of having my own summer camp. We had no less than 80 kids. Can you imagine every summer I'm with 80 some odd kids? Every summer. You gonna get burnt. Unless you got a strong team, you gonna get burnt. And last year was the first time I was like, I ain't doing that. I thought about it this year, and then I came back again. I'm like, no, because you gotta rest. In this race, working with kids, you gotta find a pace. Because if you trying to do everything, for one, your family at home gonna get.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? For two, you can't, because doing this type of work goes bigger than,
It's intense.
yeah, a regular program. You got parents in the middle of the night calling you, my kid ready to commit suicide.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get out your bed. Leave your family, leave your kids, and go. I'm telling you, man, running programs gonna cost me relationships. I'm just being real with you. Like, running youth programs have cost me my home, because you get so indulged in these kids' life and you treat them like they're your own, and before you know it, someone, I promise you, you'll forget about your own kids.
And I think you're making a very, very valid point. During the time where I was the most in, maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, me and my fiance did the same exact thing. Mm-hmm. We said, hey, we want to establish change. We want to bring something to the community. Mm-hmm. And we established a youth program via one of the churches that we were at. The conversation was about just showing up, mm-hmm. and being consistent. Mm-hmm. And where it started off with our kids and maybe a couple nieces and a few more kids we didn't have a youth program at all, mm-hmm. you know, mm-hmm. and it was a couple of kids that just kept sitting there, mm-hmm. you know, looking crazy, mm-hmm. trying to understand adult concepts, trying to understand, you know, different things, trying to identify who they are. And we said, let's take them, mm-hmm. right? And so we did a Sabbath school every other Saturday, and we were with those kids from 10 a.m. to about 4:30 p.m. every other Saturday. Yeah. When they got there, we fed them, mm-hmm. we educated them, mm-hmm. we allowed them to play, we connected the things of God to the practical world. Mm-hmm. We even started a thing where we started allowing them to become elected officials and translate kingdom principles to practical principles. And for 2 years, we paid for almost every single thing out of pocket. I can maybe count on a couple hands, you know, and the initiative was, hey, we're saving up for a roof. Hey, we're saving up for this. We're saving up for that. And I think that it really spoke profoundly when all we asked for was internet in the NX. And we couldn't get it after all the work that we had done. And you're right, it got big. It got big, and it would come for everywhere, and the parents were dropping it off. And I think that when you have a religious mindset, and by religious, I'm not saying based on God or a premise, the idea behind religion is something that you do over and over and over again without changing. So, you know, sometimes when a system has been built, mm-hmm. right, and you're used to it, the idea of change is not only intimidating, but it's insulting to some, right? Because it wasn't their idea. It wasn't their premise. They don't get the shine. But God is really made to get all the glory. You know, no matter what it is, it's like we do the work so that people can see our good work and glorify the Creator, you know? So I think that the conversation behind it doesn't have to be you for you to join the cause. You know, it's very, very important. I think that transition of power and understanding when it's time for you to give up that seat because, you know, and be an elder or someone who imposes wisdom on the next generation that has tenacity, fire, and energy is very, very important. And I think that we're reaching to a point where we have a lot of educated, we're in the information age. These kids know what they want, right? They know how they feel, and the language disconnect, the rite of passage to get into some of these spaces are being blocked by people who are afraid to let it go. And so I want to encourage anyone who is in a position like that to just hear us. Hear what it is that we're trying to do. And if you're not able to do it, if you're too old, if you're too tired, then Lorraine's a great example of a transition of power, right? She saw someone who had been putting in the work, who understood the business, who understood how to get the job done, who was passionate about the community, and she said, my time is up.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for a long time, but I am entrusting it with someone, background conversations, background training, background trust being established, and I'm going to give it to you so that you can keep it going. But like, we get one life, and at some point, like you say, some people, we get weary. And so if there is someone that is ready to step up and take that charge, bring them into the fold, mentor them, have those conversations, and establish the trust that you need to have in order to allow the next generation to take over. Because there's nothing worse than being in a situation where you hold it and you hold it and you hold it and you die, and nobody's prepared to take up the mantle. That is the most devastating part of a lot of things that were so great. And now they are no more. Right?
We'll rather see the entire church die before they pass the torch. We'll rather see the community suffer before they pass the torch. We'll rather see Little League football teams go under before we pass the torch. That is a problem here in our city that we continue to have, that we do not line up who's next.
Right.
We do not line up, okay, you only did 10, 15 years, give it up. It's time, and this is the problem. We are the only culture that don't prepare our young people to be able to pass the torch and be able to run after our time is up. We are the only culture. You go in them Chinese stores, you see them young people working the register, they around there, I don't care if they got to get you a glass of water. They teaching those kids the business mindset at a very young age. It's only us that don't prepare our kids, that don't prepare for where we're going. We're the only culture. And so we got to do a better job. And then we got to be comfortable, and we got to be okay with calling people out to say, it's time to give it up. You know how many things we're allowed to die in this city? Strong programs that help save me. The Weed and Seed program. They used to take us down there to the Coast Guard. Where that program at? The police community right here at Enoch, they used to pull kids together. We used to be, what that program at? You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't think of it. He gonna get me. The one with the dreads. But he had the tutoring program after school. I know me and you, we went to it. I can't think of his name right now.
Was it the one at, No,
it was...
At Bethel?
No, it was right
or...
Mr. Shabazz.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Mr.
yeah. Okay.
Who took it up after Mr. Shabazz? You know what I'm saying? A black man educating young people. And then look at our churches. They gonna kill me for saying this, but I'm gonna say it. Look at our churches right now. Everywhere you go inside of these churches here in St. Pete, that pastor done been there probably 15 or better years. And if you go inside of the churches now and you say, well, who's next to carry the torch? Church probably wouldn't know. like we just gotta do a better job of passing the torch for whoever's next to run this race. So they gonna kill me for that, but I'm alright with it.
Another great conversation that was had and was around what can you do now, right? There was a challenge that was given to everyone in the room who stood up, who sat down, about what can you do now? What can you go out and implement within the next week? And part of my contribution, and I want to put it on record, is for this radio show to be a platform for those who are looking to share their story and impact our community.
I love it.
Okay? I say this all the time. If people don't know you, they cannot fall in love with what you do. There is a big trust issue in our community. Nobody truly trusts anybody unless they have been vetted. So when people come on to the Simone Durant Show, I think it's very important for me to give them space and opportunity. An hour is a very long time to be able to hit some very strong points, to help people understand who you are, what you're doing, and why you are doing it. If you are trying to make an impact in this community, Black Power Radio is the free speech platform. You guys need to support this radio station. It is important that we keep it open and active for our community. But as a person who definitely wants to be a part of the change, you know, it's all about solutions. I don't want people coming on here saying, like, you know, going on a rant, right? We're talking about solutions. There are more problems than solutions, right? So after we state the problem, we're definitely going to talk about some things that people can use right now. Right now, that they can go home and be empowered with right now. That the resources that they can go and look up and Google right now. As a mom who with a special needs child and two, you know, scholars essentially, I spread myself wide and thin on the internet trying to encompass everything that all of my children need. We have 3 kids that are in the house right now, and I understand, even with all of my flexibility, that it is still very difficult to to make sure that each child gets what they need. And so I am too. One, proactivity is all about the conversation. If you as a parent, if you as a grandparent, if you as a caretaker want and see a need, do not wait until May 20th to look for a summer camp. Especially if you cannot afford it, right? The Juvenile Welfare Board gives a plethora of grants to these organizations. Dresha came in as well and said, a lot of these teen camps, word of mouth says that they're full, but they are not. There are places that can accept your kids right now, and there's an opportunity. We do, even though it's difficult, I started teaching my kids how to catch the bus. You know, they get on the bus. I'm watching them on, you know, my Apple Maps or whatever. I'm watching them travel through the city. I'm making sure it's during a time where I have time. If there's a hiccup, I can go to where they just got dropped off. We have to start training them up. Like you said, we have to start training them up. So a part of one of the strategies that, you know, I like to use as a parent is saying, okay, I'm going to show you, and I'm going to show you, and then we're going to do it together, and then I'm going to watch you, and then I'm going to let you fly. There's a process to putting kids out there. You can't just be like, go, right? We have to nurture these kids, and I think the conversation behind being burnt out and making sure that your family is still intact and still has a part of you. I want you guys to hear that, because as community advocates, one of the things I definitely had to do was say, I always have to chin check myself. If what I'm trying to get to the community, do my kids have it? If what I'm trying to pour into other people's kids, do my kids know it? Have I shared it with them? Have I shared that story? Have I done this? You know, it's so, you have to be like almost overly intentional to not be consumed, and then you're ostracized when you don't do more. But at the same time, I think the strength of a man or a woman is the reflection of how their family is when they present themselves to the world. So you guys got to give us some grace. You got to give us some grace. You got to give us some support. And this is not a bash to anybody who's already out there doing the work. We're saying, let us know who you are. Let us know who you are. Let us know how you can support. No, just because I'm petitioning and he's petitioning, it might not be us, but it might be somebody else, who's listening to this conversation that says, I can go. Right? Again, it takes a community. It takes people coming together. And so I hope that this conversation is just the beginning of many conversations. But it's also an opportunity for people to engage. For people to engage. We had a conversation about someone who said, I sit up with these kids. I've been on the phone with them for 4 hours just so that they won't get into a fight. They're telling me they don't want to do this. So the narrative that's in front of us is saying, hey, like, this is what our kids want to do. But the boots on the ground is saying, this ain't really what they want to do. Right? And so, and I think there's another thing too, where people who have kids who are challenged with things and are going through things almost feel like they shouldn't get out there and help other kids because their kids are going through. So, once you have done all that you can do, for your child or for the people that are directly connected to you, you also can't feel guilty, not to use your power and your purpose that God has given you to impact the people around you. Everybody has a season.
Yeah.
And I think that's
Yeah, I'm gifted at what I do. I'm gifted at mentoring kids. I'm gifted at turning a young person's life around. But guess what? I still get calls from Maximo Elementary about mine. And I got to go out there and be gifted with him too. You know what I mean? So, it's about what you can do. I can't coach Little League football. Well, I used to. But I don't know the new plays. I don't know, but those coaches mean the world to them boys. Those cheerleading coaches mean the world. So it's whatever God has blessed you with. You put your hands in and you do what you can do to make an impact. And if you grab one, that's it. It's all... I used to think, Simone, I had to save them all. And the truth was, I remember riding down the road and I remember crying. People don't know I had stopped mentoring boys because there was one particular young man. Guess what his name was? His name was Lewis. Got shot in the back of the head. And I've been mentoring that boy for years. And people don't know how much of an impact that left on my life. And I didn't want to do it no more. I did not want to mentor another. I'm good. I got my kids. I don't want to be that involved in the kid life. Because I felt like that day I was burying my own son. And I ain't want that feeling. And what's crazy is I had talked to him 2 days before. And he was saying, hey, I'm about to go get a trade. I'm about to, and people were like, well, why you stop? That was one of the reasons why I stopped. That really had told me down in life. And still to this day, I'm trying to get over it. But what I'm saying is, I had to learn I can't save them all. But I still got up every single day and tried to make an impact on the youth somewhere. And that's just the goal you gotta have. Some you gonna save, some you ain't gonna save.
Right.
Some already too far gone. And I even had to learn how to say, Mama, he already. that boy gone.
Life gonna teach him.
Life got to teach him.
Yeah.
And it used to hurt me to turn around, but I got kids here that I'm trying to get them to turn the other way. And I can't have him that's already, you know what I mean? So I said all of that to say, you just got to be on a mission every day. If this is the work that you want to do, because this is something you got to wake up every single day and make an impact in.
Whew. Listen, this conversation is not over. Our youth are tomorrow. They're the people who are gonna be over things when we can't do it anymore. So I definitely want to revisit this conversation, keep this conversation going, and make sure that we understand that it's going to take time and it's going to take a village. Remember that your journey is yours uniquely, and beauty starts from within. I look forward to speaking to you all next week. And thank you, Pastor Louis Stevens Jr., for being a part of the conversation once again.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all. I'll come back anytime.
Absolutely.
Why men great till they gotta be great? Don't text me, tell it straight to